Bill 29, Sensitive Material Review Amendments, Representative Ivory. And before we have the bill presentation, if I can just remind everyone, this is actually a bill, an interim study bill, and we have spent a total of 5 hours and 50 minutes in the committee on this topic, and we have had over 45 minutes of public comment on this. So we have studied this bill many, many times, and so I think if you can keep that in mind, we will be limiting public comment today because of the fact that we have had so much public comment already on this bill. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The committee's worked tirelessly on this and appreciate Representative Ivory's work on this. It looks like you have two co-presenters, and we'll go to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very much looking forward to retiring from the sensitive material work in the legislature. Hopefully we can get to that place. I would like you to hear first from two of the parents that first brought this issue to my attention in 2021, and they've been working on this throughout, and I'd like you to hear briefly from them, and then I'll just add a few comments.
Thank you.
I'm Brooke Stevens, and my expertise comes from working with parents in school districts across the state on sensitive materials for over 2 years. My website is ratedbooks.org, and you can find links to school district policies, book reports, and Utah book locations. It's been nearly 2 years since the sensitive materials law was passed, yet there are 98 explicit book titles rated 4 and 5, which is NC 17 or above, currently in Utah schools, and at least 1,190 copies of these 98 book titles. In fact, Bonneville Elementary School in Salt Lake City School District has pages of explicit descriptions of intercourse, complete with undulating, thrusting, trembling, slamming, blasting, arching, searing, releasing, and groaning. This book, Empire of Storms, has been removed from 5 Utah school districts and just recently retained by a junior high in Park City, and it still sits in an elementary school. We need this bill to protect Utah's children when districts refuse to proactively follow the law. On our spreadsheet, we show locations of books across Utah that are rated NC 17 or higher. We are limited in our searching as some districts have closed their search options so that we cannot search the whole district. Therefore, we only have limited reports on 19 of the 42 school districts. Parents and grandparents have been and continue to be the main oversight for the sensitive materials law, as evidenced by the supposed need for a challenge to remove pervasively vulgar books. The fact that we do this with no funding or mandate underscores the reason why Utah Code Section 30-5A-103 states, parents retain the fundamental rights and duty to exercise primary control over the care, supervision, upbringing, and education of their children. There is a rebuttable presumption that a parent's decisions are in the child's best interests. Despite the call to action that UELMA just put out to tell legislators that they are expertly trained, parents are the codified experts on what is appropriate for children. Almost all the parents I have been in contact with agree that more steps must be taken, such as the statewide removal and subjective reviews that this bill introduces. Some districts have reported in interim committees that there is no problem because there are no challenges. This is a nice and happy thing to believe. But as evidenced by our spreadsheet, it isn't true. Explicit content exists in every district that we have listed. The reason books aren't being challenged varies. Weber School District has 54 explicit titles and at least 147 separate books with a 4 or 5 rating. Their policy requires those who challenge the books to first read the book in its entirety. This is not an equal policy, as it excludes those who have a religion that counsels against reading pornography or lying about having read it. How can they honor their religion and read these books? I have had many friends who won't even look at them. Another reason books aren't being challenged is because parents don't know. Parents are accustomed to getting permission slips for PG-13 movies from schools. Therefore, they wrongfully assume there's nothing above a PG-13 rating in their schools. Yet these books have a rating above NC-17 because they contain explicit references to aberrant sexual activities such as bestiality, assault, and sadomasochistic abuse. Even the descriptions of how to perform oral sex in some level 3 books are enough to violate the opt-in policy of sex ed. This is especially dangerous since students have no way of understanding how the HPV virus can spread and lead to throat cancer from such activities. After 2 years, parents still have books in their children's schools that can't be read in school board meetings. After 2 years, children still have books in their schools that FCC regulations prohibit distribution of by the media. After 2 years, there are books that I have copied and pasted in an email that have gotten me blocked. 2 years is enough to see that Utah school districts need the guidance outlined in this bill. Lastly, I want to say to all of the school districts that your hands have never been tied. PICO has always allowed you to weed pervasively vulgar books. Utah State Code since 2007 has been there about saying there is no value to minors. With this new bill, HB29, we hope to help school districts have more confidence to see their duty and their present ability that they've had all along to protect kids from sexually explicit content. This bill is a much needed step in the right direction.
Hi, my
Representative Pulsfer, is your question for Ms. Stevens? Or can, okay. All right, this is the middle of the presentation, but if you want to ask her, that's fine.
I just, really quick question. You mentioned a list. Is that list online?
Yes. Do you want me to tell you where?
Sure.
If you go to ratedbooks.org and go to the Utah Locations tab, there's a map. And when you open up the map, it will show you a list of all the books and where they are. And in the description of that map, there's a list that goes to a spreadsheet, and it will show you all the books and the 14 districts, what schools they're in, and if they've been removed and if they're still there.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Additional questions from this, again, we're in the middle of the presentation, so I'd rather let him finishing up and go to clarifying questions. She'll be up here for clarifying questions. This is part of the presentation, so usually we let the bill sponsor finish that and then do clarifying questions.
Just said.
Okay,
Quick.
well, again, go ahead, but just so everyone knows, we'll keep questions until the end of the bill presentation.
Brooke, my question is, when you say they're rated, who rates them? Is it you?
I did not rate them. There's a rater out of Florida. It's booklooks.org, and we use her rating system. And it's based upon the MP movie ratings. So we list the 0 through 5 categories. 0 is a G, and 5 is NC-17 and above, and we use the same standards. She details what those are for the movie rating system, and the movie rating system it's actually parents who rate movies.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue with your presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Vendas. I'm here just representing myself. I am grateful to be working and collaborating with Representative Ivory on this important piece of legislation. This is now the 3rd session we have come before this committee, and our good representative has worked tirelessly on ridding our public education of sensitive and explicit materials from our K through 12. I'd like to briefly share in the most practical sense of why I come before you again today, asking for your support of this bill. Late part of last year, I was able to be part of a meeting with a public school official. I sat and listened to the officials share to their embarrassment, I might add, that the reasons for allowing the most graphic materials to remain in our schools, even though they were visibly uncomfortable having to hear the very words of the book being read out loud, when asked why they would not pull the inappropriate books, the only answer given was, "We have to let the process work." At that point, I felt compelled to speak up. I said, would you read this to your children or to your grandchildren? Would you be okay with your child checking out this book from the school library? They shared they would not be okay with any of their family members reading this material. So I then proceeded to ask, would it be appropriate to have these books displayed at a book fair hosted on school grounds? Once again, the answer was no, it would not be appropriate. I further shared that my grandchildren attend public school here in Utah. They shared with me that they go to the school library each week and are allowed to have 15 to 20 minutes of reading time in the library and have an option to check out books. During the reading time, they are allowed to pick out any books that are on the shelf to read. I then asked if the teacher looks at every student's reading material. They said they do not. So for 20 minutes each week, children could potentially be exposed to sensitive material, and there is no parental consent or notification given because that child never technically checked out the book. I've spoken to hundreds of parents over the past 3 years with these same concerns. Children of all ages have the potential of seeing these harmful materials, not to mention the long-term consequences of seeing these indecent images. As we all know, and has been repeated ad nauseum, this is not a book ban. Any parent is more than free to purchase these books for their child. Lastly, I've heard it said that this is discriminatory toward minority and marginalized communities. But let me be clear, this is not targeted toward any marginalized communities. It does not matter who the author is, Latino, Black, white, gay, or straight. This is about the content, not the author. Bottom line is, if the materials fall within the guidelines of the Bright Line Rule, which is already codified, then it needs to be removed immediately. We ask the committee to please support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Ivory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I'm so grateful for these dear parents that they are so persistent. Their own time, their own money, to simply protect the children in our schools from material that has been defined as criminally indecent and pornographic since 2007. That standard has never changed. We're just simply applying it to the schools and the material that are in the schools. When we passed the bill in 2022, House Bill 374, many schools and many districts, many LEAs did a great job. And when they were notified that this type of material was in their schools, they acted immediately to protect children. Others, however, resisted at every turn. And rather than us all being on the same team to protect children, they refused. And even when parents would go repeatedly to school board meetings, they refused. And then the parents could not even share at the school board meeting the types of materials that are in the schools that their children are exposed to. And so then many of the claims were that HB 374 simply was not clear enough. And so with the good work of this committee, as the chair mentioned, over many meetings and much consternation over several meetings in the summer, HB 29 clarifies the implementation of House Bill 374. It defines separately what is objective sensitive material, which we had in other meetings called the Bright Line Rule, that was pre-existing law in 7610, 1227, A, 1, 2, and 3. And that's now called objective sensitive material. The others that fall under 7610, 1235, 1221, or 1201, 1203, and 1227, 1A4. I hate that I know all these numbers by heart now. Those all fall under the subjective sensitive material. And the bill explains objective, first of all, if there's a plausible claim that it's sensitive material, take it off the shelf immediately. Get it out of the exposure to children. If it's objective material, take it out of the school. Be done with it. If it's subjective material, then go through the review to determine whether or not it has serious scientific, literary, artistic, political, I forgot the other one, serious, literary, artistic, whatever, you know what I mean. I don't remember that one anymore. The SLAPS test. So to do the subjective review, right? And then if it is determined that it's subjective, then that comes off the shelf as well. For the objective material, because this is defined as criminally harmful material, before any of us ever got to the legislature, since 2007, the items in 1227, 1A, 1, 2, and 3, they've been defined as criminally indecent and pornographic. And so, just like any other crime, we don't decide if cocaine is illegal from one county to another. We don't decide if assault and battery is a crime or not from one county to the other. What this bill now does is it provides for clarity in the implementation and then uniformity across the state in how we apply the standard that was already in law as to what is criminally indecent. With that, Madam Chair, thank you to the committee. I think the committee has worked very long and very hard, and I'm hopeful that that our good districts and LEAs and education officials will all join hands together, and we'll get rid of this material in our schools, that our children are not exposed to these things that both the legislature, the state board, and others have determined repeatedly is actually medically harmful to the development of children's brains. This is addictive and causes harm to the development of children. Clearly, we can all agree that it's important that we protect children from such material. So, Madam Chair, thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm sure these good parents that are here with me today would as well.
Thank you. We'll bring it to the committee for clarifying questions on the bill. Representative Moss.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Stevens, my question's to you. Do you have a financial interest in this
Representative
book?
Moss, if you can direct your questions through me, please, that'd be awesome.
I will, but not everybody else does it.
I've been calling everyone on it
Okay,
today, Democrats and Republicans.
I'll try.
So go
I have
ahead.
to turn my chair. I'd like to know if Ms. Stevens has a financial interest in this ratedbooks.org, and also point out that the Motion Picture Association owns the copyright to that rating system, and they do not allow others to use that.
So do you have a clarifying question on the bill?
Well,
Yeah, it's related to what she said about the list that she's compiled for telling everybody to look at this list of all these thousands of books. And I said, who rates
first,
them?
Madam Chair, I know the questions to Ms. Stevens, but I want to say I'm offended by that question. The fact that mothers have taken time at their own time and their own expense to develop a website and develop a list to protect children when others who are paid with state dollars to do that, I find that highly offensive. The website has been developed by parents on their own time, on their own dollars. And Representative, I'm sorry, but that is really beyond the pale.
Well, I asked the question, you just
Representative,
answered it.
Representative Moss, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions pertaining to the bill?
If I may, Madam Chair, though, please.
Well, it's okay. You've answered the question. I actually checked with staff because you can't impugn the motive of a legislator for sponsoring a bill. And as Ms. Stevens is a part of the bill presentation, I feel like we're in the gray area there. So I think we're just fine. You responded. So if we have any additional questions relevant to the bill content from the committee. Okay, seeing none, we will take this to the public for public comment. If you don't mind, we'll let others come sit up front. Can I get a raise of hands for how many people in the room are here to speak to it? Okay, again, we have already had many hours put towards this bill, so we're going to limit it to 10 commenters in the room. So if you can stand on the left side. Actually, we're going to do this so you're not, well, either way, you're blocking people. If you are here to speak in support of the bill, on the right side, first 5 people. If you are here to speak against the bill, left side, first 5 people. But if you can snug up against the wall so this side of the room can actually still see. Oh, it looks like we have one person sitting down next to Representative Ivory.
She just can't, yeah. She's
Are you in support or against it?
Support.
Okay, so it looks like on the support side, to the individuals organizing themselves, on the support side, there's just four spots left. I don't think anyone's listening, but if someone can convey that. Okay, there's 4 spots left because we already have one here. Make sure that you state your name. You'll have 2 minutes, and then we will go online. We'll take 2 for, 2 against online. Go ahead.
My name is Daisha Stevens. I am a junior in high school. I'm asking for you to please favorably recommend HB29. Some people say that we need these books in our libraries to help heal kids who have been hurt. I have suffered from trauma in my life. When triggering topics have been discussed in my class, I ran out in tears. I was very, very embarrassed. My parents have connected me with professionals who have helped me. I think school should be a place where I go to learn. Healing is a private matter. I have other friends who love to read, but they have come across some explicit books in the schools. They can't forget those images. It makes them feel uncomfortable and dirty. It would be nice if my friends who love to read didn't have to worry about researching each title that they choose. I have another friend who struggles with pornography. All of his friends knew where all the dirty books in the library were. People say kids don't read, but they talk to each other and they know where to find explicit content. His friends think it's a joke, but my friend had to go to residential treatment. It was one of the worst times in his life. It would be nice if at least the school supported his efforts to not view explicit content. As a teenager, I want a good life. I want to seek after all good things. There are many good things in this world. Providing children with explicit content is embarrassing, uncomfortable, triggering, and unnecessary. Please choose the best for us. Please favorably recommend HB29.
Thank you. Thanks for coming here today.
Thank you.
And then